بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجه الكريم. We welcome y'all, everyone, to another session of the Youth's Roundtable with our brothers Salahu-Din Mujahid Abdul-Aleem and Imam Malik Robinson. And y'all got it pretty soon. We got to put imams before your name. Y'all gave khutbahs before, right?
Yeah.
Nail, you gave a Juma before?
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. And Mujahid?
Yes.
All right. I'm giving y'all honorary imam titles. Right? You're gonna give an honorary doctorate.
Yeah.
All right now, the youth are all imams. And anyone got something to say about it?
I don't give khutbahs. I don't give khutbahs.
So I know, but you already did that. I remember. I heard him. I heard him. So we can't. So now all is official. Ajastukum bil imama. All y'all now imams.
MashaAllah.
So we got Imam Nail, Imam Mujahid, and Imam Malik.
MashaAllah.
So our youth imams. Inshallah, we're going to continue from last week's conversation. We were talking about racism, Islam, but we evolved into solutions, to the discussion on solution. And one of the things we left off with was talking about how is it that African Americans were at the forefront of the Islamic discourse in America and how that has slowly changed. And we was talking about why each of you thought that occurred. So let's recap that. And then I want to expand from there to figure what we need to do to reverse course and get back on a course where we're all involved as African-American Muslims. And how do we work with our immigrant brothers and sisters and those of different ethnicities for the common good of the ummah, right? And what does that look like in your eyes? So I'm open that discussion. We're going to give it to the elder, Imam Malik, to start off the conversation, inshallah. Barakallahu bikum.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. That's, this is a very broad topic, very, sensitive topic. One of the reasons that I think we lost it, even though we had, pseudo-Islamic groups and splinter groups from like the Black Panthers and the birth child or the brainchild of Al-Hajj Malik Malcolm, rahimahullah. I think, personally, I think it was systematized. I think it was, by design, like any group, the government, the so-called powers that be, they saw Islam as a threat when it came to the African American, just like the Panthers and the SNCC and any other organizations that we had as a people, as African Americans, they came and they sought to destroy it. So I think, the reason that it fell and crumbled, it was by design, because, we can't have power as Black people. We always have to be subjugated. If you let them tell the narrative, we always have to be subjugated and, kissing somebody's boots. So, Allah knows best. And I'm speaking graphic. I mean, I think they brought their people in from overseas and, Saudi or wherever. And it was a plot. They took the izzah or the strength that we had as Muslims, with groups like the Daughter of Islam movement, and whatever limited knowledge that they had, we still had some kind of strength and some kind of power. And it was, it was just another plot to destroy it, so that we can always be second class in everything we do, even with, with the truth and the guidance of Islam. So, I think that's why it fell apart, along with, whatever other schisms and, mishaps that the brothers may have had, and just, Allah knows best. But I think it was by design that it fell apart. What we need to do now, just, you know, like Imam Amin always says, we have to teach the people the proper creed. We have to teach people, you know, true Islam. I believe that Islam was hijacked. If you just look, you know, and this is one, you know, one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that the people, they did not become divided until knowledge had came to them. So, you know, once people start going overseas and studying and feel like they had some kind of ilm, it caused the divide where you had, you know, us in the Masjid, and back in the early 90s, late 80s, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't an issue. Everyone was fine. We was trying to learn whatever we had of Islam. And then the people came back. So I think, you know, they sick their dogs on us, you know, divide that. Don't let them have no unity. We had the community of Imam W.D. Rahimahullah. We had the, you know, the Daughter of Islam, and they, you know, they sent their agents to destroy it. So we just have to get it back. You know, we have to teach the people the correct creed, you know, teach them true Islam. And we just have to build. We have to build, because if we don't, you know, we always say, we'll lose the, you know, the future generations, the present generations. So we have to build, and it's going to take sacrifice. Like, you know, I'm from Philly, and we have a rich Islamic and Muslim community. You know, you know, men like Sheikh Abdul-Aleem Ahmed, you know, Imam Luqman and Brother Kareem's grandfather, Imam Luqman's father. I remember, you know, them telling stories of when it was, you know, when Islam was something foreign in this city. It was something that was strange. Like, you might have had 10 Muslims, you know, and things like this, and they would congregate in each other's houses and things like this. So this reminds me of like the secret call in Mecca during the days of the secret call, the first 3 years when the companion used to be in, you know, the house of Ibn al-Arqam, Dar al-Arqam. He said, you know, when you seen a Muslim, it was like, you know, something like big. You see a Muslim, you get a salams and things like that. So, you know, we had this struggle, and we're the pioneers of it in this country. Far as the pseudo groups, the Sunni groups, we're the pioneers of Islam in this country. And we let, you know, the foreigners come in and subjugate us and, you know, brainwash us, even like we talked about last week about culture. Like it or not, music is a rich, you know, something that's rich in our culture. And everything has to be put in its perspective. If it's something that's of benefit, then you take it. When the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered into Medina with the children, the girls and the little boys and the women, they sung Tala al-Badru alayna when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered into Al-Medina. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw the you know, the Abyssinians playing with their spears in the masjid and dancing and things like this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abu Bakr, don't reprimand them. This is what they like to do. So we have our culture, and we let these people come take our culture, come take everything. We have to reclaim it, and we just have to rebuild. And far as, you know, as far as how we reconnect and how do we build that, you know, that bridge with our foreign brothers, we have to address the elephant in the room. We have to, you know, we have to speak straight speech, as Allah says, Kulu qawlan sadida. Speak straight, you know, let them know, you know, there's racism and things like that. That's not going to be tolerated. That's not from Islam. And you're going to deal with us. You're going to deal with us, you know, as you would deal with your own people as human beings with respect, or we're going to deal with you accordingly. Allah knows best.
Mujahid, you're the next older, right? We're going to get Imam Nail in his place, young buck. Stay in line.
No problem. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. Well, alhamdulillah, I think Imam Malik summed it up very beautifully. Inshallah, I'll try to add in a couple more words. And alhamdulillah, we've spoken about this before, publicly and privately, that many of the issues that the Black Muslim community faces is just a symptom of what Black people in general face, right? Particularly when we're talking about racism and favoritism. You know, if we look at the history of our people, right, there was a time where, you know, post-slavery, where we were forced to, you know, create our own thriving communities. We were forced to create our own institutions. You know, we weren't allowed into white neighborhoods. We weren't allowed into, to white businesses. We weren't allowed into white schools, as we mentioned before about the significance of HBCUs, right? All these things, forced us to stretch and forced us to find the best within our own selves, right? The best within our own selves, and create something that could have been passed on to future generations. But as time went on in American history, as we know, particularly in our, not Illinois' grandparents' age bracket, right? You're talking about you're talking about civil rights era, you're talking about the era of affirmative action, and even a little before that, right? We now start seeing African Americans, Black people start moving into white neighborhoods, giving up their businesses to work for white people, allowing white groups, white people to run our organizations, or allowing them to to have the mantle and the foothold of black organizations from the very beginning, from the very beginning. I'm pretty sure some of us saw the news when we heard about, the United Negro College Fund, right? We heard that they just, right, that in the first time in their history,
Crazy.
the first time in their history, right? Naomi knows, right? The first time in their history, they actually have a Black board chairman. Think about that. The United Negro College Fund, for the first time in the history of their existence, in 2021, right? So we're talking about, all these decades, the decades they've been around. This is the first time in their history that they actually had a Black person as the board chairman of the United Negro College Fund, right? But prior to that, they had been white people. John D. Rockefeller was actually one of these white people, right? And so we see this, right? We see this pattern amongst Black Americans, right? Same thing, same history happens to African American Muslims, right? There was a time where Islam may have reached us early on, right? It may, for some people, it might have been people from India, it might have been people from Sudan or other places, right? But after we got it initially, we took it. We made it our thing. We started. We had our own Masjid, right? There was a time in American history where if there was a Masjid in America, more than likely, Black people were the ones who started it up, right? Whether these Black people were from America, or they were born in America, or they came from the islands, right? Black people solidified that, right? We had our own organizations. We were learning, we were studying. Then once again, as time went on, for many of us, this might have been the pinnacle point of this change. Might have been the late 80s, early 90s. We started seeing an influx of a particular Islamic understanding, particularly from Saudi Arabia, which crept into our ranks. And so what did we do? We replaced the white man for the Arab man, right? Thinking that we say what, that we used to say we believe that the white man's ice was colder, or that his grass was greener. Well, for the Arab man, we believe that there's sand, their sand, had more grains to it, that their sand was more pure, right? We started believing that they were in fact better, and that really stifled us, right? It really stifled our growth. It stifled our understanding and application of the deen. And mashallah, we have to really give Imam Amin his flowers, early on, because he's definitely one of the champions of wanting to teach the correct aqidah and bring home the tradition to us, the tradition that was there with us when we were back in the continent of Africa, and we were stripped away from us, from many of us in slavery. Some of us were able to keep it, but many of us lost it. And now we are grabbing it back. We're getting it back through the efforts of Imam Amin and other brothers and sisters, in this country, alhamdulillah. And so what we have to do, we have to go back and make this thing ours again. We have to show, not really to anybody else, to ourselves, first and foremost to ourselves, because it, regardless of what anybody thinks about us, they can think that we're the worst Muslims in the world. They can think, or they can think, we're the best Muslims. It doesn't really matter. The question is, how do we view ourselves? How do I view my brothers and sisters, my of the diaspora? How do I view them? Do I view them in a negative light, or do I view them in a positive light? And keep in mind that the way that I view them is ultimately a reflection of how I view myself. It's ultimate reflection of how I view myself, right? So we pray that Allah Ta'ala will grant us the insight to see the beauty amongst one another, right? So that we can ultimately see the beauty in ourselves and live out that reality, and live out this reality. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Bismillah. I don't have much else to add. Alhamdulillah. Salute to our brothers Imam Malik and Imam Mujahid. Alhamdulillah. I don't have much else to add except that it's important for any group of people, in order for groups of people to get ahead, to flourish, that there's a certain level of independence that is necessary, and this is seen throughout Islamic or Muslim history, rather, that the Sahaba Ajma'een, Allah be pleased with them, when they were traveling, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would send some of the Sahaba certain places to establish. And of course, we know the majority of Islam was spread through the merchants, through business, people doing business. So it was a very natural progression of people, seeing, the character and etc. But as Islam, spread through certain places, it started off very small. And they needed to depend on, the Sahabas, or and some of their, family, different tribes other than their own, to teach them, until the knowledge reached a level where they had a certain level of knowledge amongst their own people, where they can continue the silsila and the chain within their own tribe, their own community, their own groups of people. So this is a very natural progression that happened around the world. I had an opportunity. I was blessed with the opportunity to live in China, and China has had Islam for much longer, even much longer than even some Arabized places, even much longer than places where we may even associate with Islam. Many of us may not associate Islam with China, but China has been in Islam longer than even other places we associate with Islam. So they have a very long history. They're very rooted in the Hanafi tradition, specifically in China. And when I was in China, it's and I had people telling me, listen, like, I'm talking about people who only knew Islam. Their father, their grandfather, their great grandfather, they have that history in China. So what I learned about the importance of having a chain of knowledge, of silsila, because I forget the name of the Sahaba, and they have a maqam. They have a maqam for the Sahaba in China. I forget the name.
It's Sa'id ibn Abi Waqqas.
Yes, Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Imam Mujahid. Yes, this Sahaba particularly is accredited for bringing Islam to China. And it started off with trade. You know, she was a merchant, he was a trader. And they actually built a maqam for this Sahaba in China. And they have it's very close to a masjid. I forget the name of the masjid, but that Sahaba is accredited, and that's like 800, more than 700 years ago. And from starting from him, they have a record of people who the tradition was passed down to till it reached a point where the silsila was maintained within like only Chinese people. They only needed like different Chinese people to pass down that chain. And of course, you know, China has their own history of suppressing Islam even today, unfortunately. But when you look at the history, you know, it shows you that, you know, the goal when Islam comes to a place is for it to reach a level where it's within the people themselves. They're not dependent on an outside source to get ilm. And I learned that personally in my interactions with the Imam and the Shuyukh during my time in China. So Allah blessed me with that experience. But I was thinking about, you know, of course, my own people, us, that, you know, the goal is for the same thing to happen here. Of course, you know, China, you know, I'm sure, you know, many people can attest to, you know, them meeting Chinese Muslims when they were in Syria. And I remember Imam Zayd and, you know, even Imam Hamza in Memphis telling me stories of him interacting with Chinese people during his time in Syria and throughout the Muslim world. They sent people to learn as well. But even with that, they before many people were sent to learn Islam other places, they exhausted all of what they could learn in their own locale. We know that that's a part of our tradition as well. So yes, there are people here in America that are American for us to learn from, African American Muslims for us to learn from. Sheikh Hamza is one of them. Sheikh Amin Muhammad, you know, Imam Amin Muhammad is one of them. You know, Imam Muhammad Adiyinka Mendes. There's plenty, you know, even Imam Zayd as the OG, if you will, you know, who's still with us. You know, Imam Talib amongst, you know, other people. So there's plenty of people here that we can learn, that sit from and learn from here before we even go out elsewhere. And I think that that's actually very important for us to start. That we need to start a tradition here of, you know, seekers of knowledge, young seekers of knowledge, seeking out teachers here in America first before they have any intention of going anywhere else. So, you know, I think that that's something that we need to establish, that people need to go sit with Imam Amin for some time. People need to go sit with Sheikh Hamza for some time. And I love to include Imam Talib because of his knowledge of history, specifically Islamic history here in America that Imam Talib has preserved. So, you know, Imam Talib, Dr. Rasul Miller, even the historians amongst us, people need to go sit with all of those people, especially African American seekers of knowledge. And I think, you know, one of my blessings is knowing these men, you know, even on a personal level. I've been able to meet and interact with these men. And that's really has been my blessing. I think I said that already, that my blessing was, you know, my mentors instilled in me a love for being African American, for being from the African diaspora, even before they really cultivated my love for Islam. And I think that in a lot of ways that saved me from looking outside of myself, or that's, you know, that saved me from looking towards any other group of people to, you know, to validate my Muslimness, if you will. You know, so I was blessed to not have that problem. I've always had African American imams, you know, imams that look like me from the African diaspora that I've always, you know, sought advice from and looked towards. I can't count many teachers of mine in Islam that are not from the African American experience. And if they're not from the African American experience, they're from the African diaspora. You know, I have many teachers in Sudan, as you guys already know. So, I mean, you know, we don't really have to look outside of our own tradition, really. And I think that's one of the beauties of knowing this history, that if you learn this history, you don't really have to leave West Africa to reach the highest understandings of the deen. Exist in West Africa, in East Africa, in South Africa. You don't really have to leave the continent. You don't really have to leave Medina. You don't really have to, you know, there's places where the scholarship has reached a certain level where you don't have to leave there. And our goal as African American Muslims is that the knowledge reach a level where if people are leaving America, it's a choice. You know, they don't have to leave. They, you know, of course, you know, if you want to specialize in a certain genre, then you have to go to where the person who specializes in that, you know, level of ilm lives. And in many cases, that's not in the United States. You know, you have to go to Jordan. If you want to sit with, you know, the head scholar in that field, you have to go sit with them. And many times that's not here in America. That's fine. But you know, people shouldn't have to travel to learn their fard ain, their fard kifaya, their, you know, the fundamentals of the deen. No one should have to travel outside of their locale to learn the fundamentals. And so our goal is even for it to even go past the fundamentals, for it to be at least intermediate and even advanced levels of deen that people can learn before they even think about going, you know, outside of their community. So that's the intention. And, you know, may Allah gift us success in establishing that. Alhamdulillah.
Imam Malik, I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned before. And it was a question. So I'll reverse your own question to yourself. Do you think in the African American community, and all of you can join in on this from your own aspect. So listen, so we don't repeat, listen to whatever it is and wherever you feel in, you know, that you feel something to add. If not, just we go to the next question. Do you feel that we need a revival of the Darul Islam type concept among African American Muslims in this country again? And if so, what would that look like to you?
You got to explain the Darul Islam. You got to explain that concept, because I know everyone listening is not. Can you just briefly explain what that concept?
No, he's going to do that, and then you can add to it. There you
go ahead, Imam Malik. Forgive me then. Forgive me.
He's frozen. So one of y'all want to pick it up? If he can come in, he's frozen again. He's having.
Mujahid, go ahead. Bismillah, Mujahid, please. I just finished speaking. Go ahead.
Well, I'm really interested to hear what Imam Amin. I thought he came in for a second. Well, I'm really interested to hear what Imam Amin has to say, because, you know, the Dar.
I think I'm freezing. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, we hear you. We hear you. You ready? Imam Malik? Oh man. Frozen.
He in and out. Imam Amin, please, can you just, you know, briefly mention what the Dar is, what that was, what that concept, you know, was, etc.
The concept of the Dar, simply put, if you want to put it, that the Dar was African American Muslims coming together to build communities and leadership throughout the United States with a common goal to live Islam and empower Muslims. And it was mainly by African Americans. So what they understood to be Quran and Sunnah, and they went around the country doing that. Established leadership, central leadership, local leadership, and then they all came together on a national level to work and build. So that was the concept, right? And then later on, after doing that, there was a split within the movement of different understandings of the deen. That's a whole, that is another discussion. But the point of the Dar originally was people coming together, Muslims with common concerns, working together according to their understanding of Islam, building community under central leadership, and expanding it out to develop stronger Muslim presence and community in the United States. Summary.
Alhamdulillah. And I'm glad that you acknowledge that there was a split, because I think that even though that's, we don't want to focus on that, but I think that is actually important when delving into the reasons for why the daughter, wasn't as successful as it could have been. But the concept is a very strong concept and a very, I think, necessary concept. My OG, in the daughter, if you will, is, I know you know Sheikh Hunafa, Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Hunafa, the Qadri brother from Philly. You know who that is? You know what I mean?
He's in Atlanta now, right?
Right. Yeah.
The moon shit.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Yes. So that's my OG as far as the daughter is concerned. A lot of that history, even regarding the split and everything, I learned from him, as well as the history that I've learned from Dr. Rasul Miller, Allah preserve both of those brothers. But I think the concept is something that is completely necessary. Like, unity is something that needs to happen, and if unity can happen on a leadership level like that, like almost like a organizational kind of chapter level, if you will, like there's different chapters or different, and then everyone comes together. I think that's a beautiful concept of leadership. I think what that looks like today, the same concept can be reignited. I don't think that would be an issue. I think it would be actually even be easier to do something like that now. And I think that people already have concepts. A lot of people do. I know you're a part of a lot of different groups of African American imams. Imams in Jersey, or there's a lot of different groups that I know that you're a part of. So people already have a unifying concept, so to speak. I just think that the what people disagree on is the mission, and I think the mission is where the question mark lies, and where strong differences arise that separate people. So I think the concept is always of unity is good, but I think that the concept has to come around a unified mission, and that mission needs to be clear. So I think in order, if we're really, getting to the issue, it really always revolves around the mission. The concept is not the problem, if you understand what I mean. Like, the mission is usually where people disagree, whether we should do this, we should do that, we should, prioritize maybe this expression of Islam over this expression of Islam, etc. So I think that, many of the differences and the separation within our community is due to our, differences in what we should prioritize and what the mission should be moving forward. So lastly, I would say, that doesn't, I think, with how, nuanced, all of the organizations and different things are today within the Ummah, it doesn't have to be one umbrella, if you will. I feel like it doesn't have to be, everyone has to be a part of this organization, if you will. People can have different organizations, and you can still unify on certain initiatives. And there's many organizations within the Ummah, not as much as there should be, but there are enough organizations in the Ummah that are led by African American imams, enough Masjid that are led by African American imams, where we can start collabing, and people can collab and get together. And even, definitely even fundraising initiatives, collabing with getting monies together to put towards, I remember I was talking to one of my OGs, and he was saying, like, it's really no excuse why we can't, pull the, certain, imams together, have a fundraiser, and at the very least send a cohort of young Muslims out to start preparing for the next generation. You know, I remember, you know, he was saying, you know, ilm is really the differentiator. There's people who know are not the same as people who don't know. So he was saying that, you know, any imams that are serious about passing the torch, they need to, you know, have a cohort of, you know, young students of knowledge who are, you know, traveling here first within America, like I was saying, sitting with people like Imam Amin, sitting with people like Imam Zayd, sitting with people like Imam Talib, etc. So first starting within the United States, then, you know, once they, you know, graduate from a certain level of knowledge there, then they can be sent, you know, to certain places overseas. Once they already have that, you know, once they're firm within their own identity already. So that's an initiative that I'm definitely, you know, willing to even put my funds behind, and I think that that's something that seriously needs to happen. And I want to emphasize again that the first mode of travel for any, especially African American students of knowledge, should be here in the United States. Go to Memphis, sit with Sheikh Hamza. Go to New Atlantic City, sit with Sheikh Amin. Go to Cali, sit with Imam Zayd, sit with Imam. You know, like, we need to start sitting with our own scholars, our own shayukh, our own imams from our cultural context first, before we go anywhere outside of our cultural context.
Imam Malik, are you available? Is it working for you yet? MashaAllah.
Imam Mujahid, go ahead, pick it up.
Oh man! So like, every time I'm about to speak, man, Imam Malik, his picture moves just a little bit. Yeah. See, he back. Imam Malik, you there?
He gonna get it together. He gonna get it. We gonna hear from him again, inshallah.
Yeah, we'll hear from inshallah. So, but now I guess the young bull take it away, inshallah. All right. Well, you know, alhamdulillah. Just like Brother Nail, I have a couple OGs myself who were in the Daughter Islam movement, and other movements as well, like Islamic Party North America, the Hanafi movement, you know, over in DC. You know, mashallah, like, you know, each organization definitely had a mission, and many of them, they were very committed to that mission. They're very committed to that mission. However, you know, the main look, I mean, like, he plotted to say something like, he had that look, man. Like, he like, man, he like, Mujahid got me riled up. See, man, I kind of want to stop, so I want to hear what Imam Amin about to say. You know what I mean?
Nah, man, go. This is your thing. I'm just joining in. You know.
Okay. All right. So mashallah. So
I want to share with you. This makes me so happy, right? To see y'all express yourselves, work it out, challenge your thoughts, because y'all the next generation. So it makes me happy. So don't take all my smiling. It's a joy to it too, just listening to you.
Alhamdulillah. Well, you know, alhamdulillah, like, you know, these organizations, they definitely had missions. And they definitely were striving to deliver this message of Islam to our people. Regardless if everything was 100% correct, whether it was the right aqidah, whether it was the right usul, we can still give credit to, you know, to their efforts, and it was a major effort during that time. You know, now the big question I personally have, right? You know, once again, these movements, they were around, you know, either in the mix of the civil rights, Black Power movement, or kind of like the tail end of it. And during this time, right, you know, you're talking about, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, and then, you know, by the 70s it was pretty much over with, and some pockets here and there in the 80s and the 90s it was, it was gone for the most part. My question, in 2021, you know, I'm not sure if communities, right, if communities will rally behind like one singular individual with the mission in a similar fashion we may have in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? And then be like very much committed. You know, we're now today, it's so easy to leave that and go do something that's easy. So what I mean by leave that and do something easy. So the best thing for us to do would be to would be to build our own, establish our own communities, establish our own institutions, sit with our own shuyukh, develop our own shuyukh, right, and sheikhs, and do it from the ground up. But now, you know, we have other communities that have come into the country. They have these $1 million masjids. They have the programs, and they import like the most famous qadis from whatever country. And and the presentation looks very, very nice, and it looks really shiny, looks really pretty. And we'll say, well, they did the work. Let's just roll with them. Let's just go over there. Like that had, once again, and that's just indicative of just a bigger issue amongst African Americans, right? Like African American Muslims, we have that same issue, right? And so I've always just wondered, yes, though, the fervor and drive of those communities are good. The Dar al-Islam, Islamic Party in North America, the Hanafi movement, and other movements I'm leaving out. But I wonder, would our community, would they really, are we ready to be that down for that? Or do we need to adopt, a new model? Do we need to try something new, right? Especially with the age of technology, with the social media craze, right? I just think about what we're doing right here, right? What we're doing right here. For many people, particularly for many Muslims, this is like what we're doing right now. This is the Ummah. This is a representation of the Ummah and where it's headed, and where guidance comes from for a lot of us, right? And we're in a very, very, very unique situation, and it's like I said, is like I'm very interested to hear Imam Malik's thoughts on these things, and I'm interested, I'm also interested to hear Imam Amin's thoughts on these as well, since both of them, they're the OGs. I'm just a young buck, so I'm here to learn. But that's what I've always just wanted, and I've always wondered this, right? I've always wondered, like, at this junction in American Muslim history, right? African American history, African American history, would that model work for us today? So I'm interested.
Okay,
Imam Malik.
we got a commercial break.
Okay.
You hear me now? You
see how Imam Naeem tried to play him? He was like Metro PCS and cricket. I'm like, dang, why they trying to? My sister Malika, like, he got a Wahhabi phone. Why they trying to play him, yo? I'm like,
hey,
no social.
Hey, why they trying to do you like that?
They got no connection.
Y'all talking about African Americans and black folks in Islam? This is us. You're gonna get rolled. Hear me now? Right, go ahead, Imam Malik. You hear the question? So the question is, you made this question Do you think we need a revival of the Darul Islam concept? And if so, in the Black American community, African American Muslim community, and what would that look like in today's time? From your side, your view.
Okay. Well, I was able to hear some of what CD9, CD Mujahid said. So I, as far as like to have, it has to have a mission. So, and it has to have a mission. So in this time, would it be relevant? I believe it could be relevant. Am I freezing? Am I freezing? Y'all hear me? Okay. All right. I mean, y'all hear me, right?
Yeah, you good. You good. You good. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, and one thing that I'll stress is I feel the Darul Islam movement doesn't get enough credit. Like we had, like I said, we had all of these pseudo Islamic groups. Like Nation of Islam, the Moorish Science Temple, all of those groups, and they have their documented evidence. So you had brothers from the Darul Islam movement who wrote books and things like that. Killed Fahad out of Detroit. He's like one of the pretty good historians on that. So I feel the Darul Islam movement doesn't get enough credit for what they attempted to do. As as close to Sunni Islam that they could be. If it was influenced by the Wahhabi movement, by by Sheikh Maududi, they was close to Sunni Islam as you had back then in the 60s and the 70s. So they don't get enough credit. But I mean, national Jamaats, national organization, that's something that we need. And it was Jamaat with the national Amir and things like that. That's not something that would be easy. I agree, but I feel it's something that's something that should be put together. We have different communities, different states, different cities. You have an Amir, you have different imams. You appoint Amir of that that locale, because ultimately it's it's trying to base it on the Dawlatul Islam, like the Khilafah. So I mean, as close as we can get to that, just different communities working together, different different masajids. That's something that I feel we should try to revitalize, because now we're all we're just scattered about, no unity, and the concept of Jamaat is something that's from Islam. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whenever you have 3 people, then you should appoint someone as the Amir. So how is it now that we have these communities? This is how we get this edition. This is how we get the fitna and the corrupt beliefs from not having leadership. Not having leadership, you have a person, a few people open a masjid, and they may not be that learned, or things like this, and you just let anyone in. You got people in with deviant beliefs, Wahhabis or whatever. So that's where leadership has to come in. You have to have that Jamaat. I feel this is something that revitalize and revisit. Like Mujahid and Niall said, in this time, it would be hard technology age and age of skill. So I don't think it would be that easy to do in this time. Technology, so it wouldn't be something easy, but we have to come together and try to put something together for our people. You have different communities, even if they have small communities, they're coming together like renegades. Islam is not some some renegade word we want. I feel this is something that we have to try to revitalize.
I want to go back because Malik, y'all brought it up in a way. And if I think one of the most I believe I would love to see that. And actually, we are trying that in our own way. A lot of African imams. I mean, I'm in contact with a lot of imams, but we have a lot of challenges to do that. And the biggest of them, I believe, is support from our own people. Everybody in general is in survival mode. No one is living. So all of our communities are, for a figure of speech, one paycheck away from the welfare line or the poverty line. That's like a standard state of affairs in the majority of our communities. So therefore, the imams are very, very cautious of giving up the little bit of control they have to someone else because the resources will go away, right? That's a concern. Like, okay, if I join with Imam Zaid, for instance, just to use a name, for instance, that a person will have, and I love Imam Zaid, that's my homie, right? As an imam, some imams are going to feel he's going to overshadow me, and my people will join him, and we'll end up being out of business, right? So they maybe have a cautious because of that, right? They have a cautiousness, like, and it's a legitimate cautiousness because we do that, right? You know, we go to the biggest picture, the nice sound, and there's not a level of loyalty with our leadership that's even local, right? So I think that's one of the problems, and I've noticed this from practical experience on the ground, right? Also, the levels, that's one issue. And I think that's the main issue. If we learn to say, because how we got around that, and we're getting around it, the imams that I work with, and there's a nice group of them all around the country, we all split support. Whenever we work together, everybody benefits or nobody benefits until we build. And that's how we work. Like Ramadan's coming up. So let me put a plug. We have Ramadan, right? So let me put a plug for that so my fellow imams don't think I forgot them. We have Ramadan. If y'all remember last year, 5 masjids around the country, African-American masjids, came together to have programs all of Ramadan. So it was Imam Fatin, Masjid Sabor in Las Vegas, Imam Suleiman in Atlanta Masjid, a Masjid of Islam in Atlanta, Imam Sheikh Hamza Abdul-Malik in Memphis, Tennessee, Midtown Mosque, Imam Jihad Safir in Isla, LA, and myself, Imam Amin Muhammad in Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City. And joined us also was Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya from Dar Rahman in Detroit, and several the imams from the Shehu Jamaat, or the leaders from that. We had a nice group of African-American leadership, and even Imam Hamza Perez was in it from the Latino community. And we did a program all Ramadan, and I don't want to leave out. And we had our sisters, you know, many of our sisters that engaged in that. But we already from the door, the first thing we said, all the money, we're going to split. So no one's going to feel like you're going to benefit from this. You're not going to lose, right? That was one of the things that we had. And I think this is an issue, a major issue. The second issue is realizing that we all have something to offer. And the most knowledgeable one is not everyone should just follow him, right? Everyone has different skill sets. So Your specialty may be this, yours is that, yours is that. And all of those need to be highlighted. Not just who's the most religious, who got the most knowledge, who studied with the most sheikhs, who was overseas the longest, Everyone has a role to play, and everyone is important. So I think when we do that, no matter who's the leader, it won't make a difference, right? So like for us,
Exactly.
our Amir is Sheikh Hamza Abdul Malik, right? We elected him. Why? Because it didn't matter who. It could have been me, everyone. It could have been Imam Sulaiman. It could have been Imam Jihad. But no one's into that because whatever we do, we all together. It don't matter. You follow what I'm saying? So my thing is like, you're a young up-and-coming scholar. We need to highlight that, because we older don't mean we should be in charge, right? We need to look at tomorrow. And whatever you need, I'm going to support you. We're going to support each other, and we're going to get the job done. That's the concept, I believe. If we can combine that, we can get the job done, right? And that's doable, but that's a lot of work. It's not easy, right? Because we got to break all those fears, which are really legitimate concerns. And the biggest part of that is us as African-American Muslim community supporting our leadership and not being treacherous when other people come in front of our leadership. So if I go to Masjid al-Islam in Atlanta, Imam Sulaiman is the sheikh, right? And he's always going to be the imam, and everyone respect that. If we go to Las Vegas, Imam Fatin is going to be the leader. He's going to be the emir. He's going to be the one who's, if we go to LA, even Imam Jihad is the youngest of us, but right now he's the imam, and we're going to respect that leadership. You follow what I mean? That concept, I think it could work. If we do that, and there's one other challenge that I think we keep overlooking that we can't, and I want to ask y'all about that. Y'all talked about the correct creed. How do you get around that? And how not get around it, because I wouldn't suggest you get around it. How do you approach it and deal with it? Because it's that elephant in the room that if we don't address that elephant in the room, you can forget the rest of the stuff. We're going to still be in factions. So how do we work that out? And what is your thoughts about that? No running.
Bismillah. I think that the only way to address something like that is to address it head on. There's the issue as you've highlighted, many times, and whenever I can, I try to catch your morning classes, and you've highlighted this many times, Imam, that some people they don't even know that they have the wrong Aqidah. They don't even know that they've accepted this pseudo Wahhabi type of understanding of creed. They don't even know. So first, it starts with them understanding that there are some holes in their understanding. There are some things in their understanding that need to be corrected. And wallahi, I've learned a lot, listening and being in your classes. I've learned that there were some holes in my understanding, some tiny holes that I needed to sew up. So I think it starts with understanding. It starts with with certain things that technical.
I was gonna crack some jokes, but this ain't the time for jokes.
No, really, it starts with humility. It starts with that humility of knowing, like, look, we're all students, we're all learning. This is a never-ending process. I don't know it all. You correcting something that may have been incorrect, that you didn't understand. That's good. That's a blessing that Allah, put the correct knowledge in your path. So, if anything, we should be thanking, teachers like Imam Amin, who are helping us, in this journey. So, and the correct Aqidah is important. Some things people may think is small, but it could be the difference of disbelief. and belief. Really, it could be that. It could be that huge of a difference. You having a misunderstanding that you may think is not big. So I think that, that being amongst the foundations that every Muslim must know. This is a part of the fard ain, like you have to have the proper akida. So that's something that we need to. I mean, in my understanding, because it's usually innocent. It's usually like people are like trying to defend the incorrect akida because they don't know that the akida that they have is incorrect. So we do. I think, in my experience, it could go left. People want to defend what they know, and they may take offense to you trying to correct them on what they've known like all their life or throughout their entire Islamic journey. And I know you know better than us, Imam, that it could go left, and people could take things personal, and so I do believe that we do have to have gentleness with our people in this regard. There should be an approach with gentleness. It shouldn't be done in a way where people are left confused or feeling dumbfounded, like dang. So I mean, as long as it's done with gentleness and in a way where people feel that it's only adding to their toolbox of understanding, adding to their toolbox of loving Allah and His Messenger, then good. But if it's, unfortunately, everyone doesn't have the patience that we have. So sometimes it's done in a manner that could turn people away from the deen, or turn people away from at least from the science of Akida. There's some people, as as you highlighted as well, Imam Amin, there's some people who think they want to dismiss Akida. They don't want to, Akida is not something that they want to talk about because of how left the conversation can go. So I think that this is a sensitive topic that has to be done with gentleness, and we just have to be real about being humble that we don't know certain things. And alhamdulillah, if you don't know, the sunnah is to go to people who do know. So alhamdulillah, that's my take on it. That's my take on it. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Imam Na'il, basically, laid the foundation for how it needs to be handled, right? And you're right, brother. You're right, man. Like a lot of us, especially those of us who are in some type of position of leadership, don't, a lot of us don't like to admit, like, yo, man, like, I'm wrong, or I don't know. That don't hurt, man. Like it hurt. And for a lot of us, it hurts. Especially if you up, you feel like you up here, and you feel like you the man, or you the woman. You know what I mean? And then somebody who I don't want to say is a lower rank, but somebody you feel doesn't have the same position as you, or they may have, or they may have the same position as you. So if they have the same position as you or lower, they'd be like, well, who are they to correct me? We the same. Or who are they to correct me? They below me. You know what I mean? And but that's that medicine. That's the bitter dose, and it's needed. It's necessary. I mean, we look at if we look at the story of Sayyidina Musa and Sayyidina Khidr, peace upon them both. According to most of the scholars of the deen, Khidr was not a messenger or a prophet. From according to most, he was a wali of Allah. That Allah had given, ilmun ladunni. He gave Allah gave him ilmun ladunni, I guess to be translated as, direct knowledge directly from Allah. Actually, direct knowledge and mercy from Allah. And he informed things that Musa alayhi salam didn't know at particular times, right? And of course, Musa could have flipped out, like, who are you, man? Who are you to challenge me? I'm Musa. I am Musa. Like who are you? Like it could have, it could have went that way. It could have went that way. and sad to say, for a lot of our leaders, it does go that way. Who is you to, like, bro? Who is you to, who's you to correct my akida? Like, so with the bull. Who is you? Like, and it's surprising. Like, I've heard in person, like, some of these conversations. So I think first it has to start with the leadership. The leadership has to admit, like, yeah, maybe there are even things that I don't know, right? Maybe there are even things that I don't know. And then secondly, I think we have to acknowledge, how serious the issue of aqidah really is, and how it has affected our communities. Like, we had to be honest about these things. Like, I don't think we're honest about that enough. I think, particularly when we're talking about the Salafi da'wah and how that affected us, we have to acknowledge that that the foundation of that da'wah and the damage it did was through aqidah, or rather incorrect aqidah, and essentially labeling the entire ummah as kuffar or fasiqun, right? Based on what they thought were perverted beliefs, but in fact, the beliefs Ahlul Sunnah were correct and theirs are incorrect. But that did a number on us, so much so that people started to adopt it, either out of ignorance or out of fear, and it's still prevalent today. I mean, look at many of the books that we have, right? Especially a lot of the free books, a lot of the free materials. Where it come from? Where it come from? It's not. It's not coming from Harar in Ethiopia. That's for sure. It's not. Most of them aren't coming from Medina Bay out of Senegal. Most of them are coming out of where? Like, coming out of, Riyadh. We know it's in Riyadh. We know the history of Riyadh. In the Salafi da'wah, the Wahhabi regime. Like, that's the default. That's where it came from, and a lot of us, still have that as our foundation. We still have that as our foundation, and it seriously has warped our understanding of the deen. So we have responsibility to fix that. And fix that in a way, and address it, be real, be honest about it, be honest about it, but fix it in a way that the community can grasp and understand. Because one of the blessings the blessings and favors of that Allah bestowed upon our beloved sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam was that Allah told him be gentle with the believers. It's mentioned in the Quran that be gentle with the believers, because if you weren't, they may turn. They may turn from you. So we definitely have to we be honest, we be real, but you teach it in a way that is digestible for our people. Using different techniques and strategies to teach them. And alhamdulillah, like I said, we're doing this right now. Like, one of the best ways is through the internet, man. The internet game changed the world. Changed the whole game. Everybody might not necessarily come and sit in the masjid, but they got an iPhone, Android, team iPhone, but they got an iPhone or Android on them, and they'll listen to a class or watch a class. They'll look to read the comments, and they'll learn like these are all tools. These are all tools to teach our community. These are all, as I know some people think like, yo, Facebook haram, Instagram haram. Like, why you want it? Right? Why you want it? But no, mashallah, they're all tools. They're tools for education. Realistically, they're tools for teaching our people and reaching our people in a way that's familiar to them. And that's what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. Like, he reached people in ways that was familiar to them. And that's what we have to do. I mean, we know our people. I mean, think about, like, if people from other countries, can can give our people religion. You know, why can't we? Why can't we? You know, we're from our people. We know our people. We live with them. We were raised by them. We are raising them currently. You know, there's no reason why we can't teach our people correctly. If they can teach our people, we for sure can teach our people. You know, and from where we're doing it from a place of not just like, once again, I'm not saying this about everybody from overseas, but it's a reality. We're not teaching them from a place of subjugation. We're not teaching them from a place of ownership, meaning owning their hearts and minds. We're teaching our people, you know, in the means of, you know, because we care for them, we love them, and we want them to be free. You know, we want them to be free. We want to make sure that they have the correct knowledge in knowing who they are submitting to. They're submitting the will to Allah, not no man in the sky, you know, not a being that's physically sitting in a chair, that's floating on water. Like, we want them to know that they are actually worshiping Allah Azza wa Jal. You know, and there's freedom in that. There's absolute freedom in that. Correctly. Yeah, so we have to just be honest with our people, transparent with them, but come with them, come and approach them, you know, at the maqam of the station of love, care, and sincerity, and we'll see it. We'll see it. We'll see a change. It may be slow, but the change is gonna happen. You know, we just have, this is why we have tawakkul ala Allah. We have tawakkul. We have trust in our Lord. We have trust in Allah. So, alhamdulillah.
Can I just add really quickly, Imam, that I think that this is a unique thing, because when I before I really started to engage in the traditional sciences, before I got access to my teachers in Sudan, etc. What I understand now is that the challenge is even within the leadership, as far as the leadership understanding and knowing that this is an issue, to help the community stay away from certain curricula, if you will. Like, there's certain books that are like pseudo Wahhabi, like it's in the books, and like I remember, I had Fiqh Sunnah. Fiqh Sunnah was my, Fiqh Sunnah was my go-to for understanding, fiqh and different things, until I really, and I understood a little bit of the tradition of madhahib, but Fiqh Sunnah, and I think you already explained the issue with Fiqh Sunnah. I think we already know that, but alhamdulillah, now I have the Muwatta of Imam Malik, and different commentary. I have a proper understanding of the necessity of having a madhab, etc. So, but the issue that I'm trying to get at is that even people who are like, against the Salafi movement or etc., and understand the detriment of what the effect that had on our community, they're still teaching from their books. You understand what I'm saying? That's the issue. So it's like, if you're on one level, you're telling us that we need to be more open about on certain things. We need to, the Wahhabi Salafi movement is not good for us. But in your halaqah, the books that you're teaching from are from these people, from these groups, from these sources. So we need to have also, imams who understand that, and who are even offering, like you have done many times, giving us books that are free from this type of influence and this deviation of these type of ideas. And I feel like if we don't get serious about the curriculum, then we are gonna even maybe mistakenly continue the same thing, of unknowingly teaching certain things that are actually not a part of the Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I really think that that's where a lot of it gets, mixed up. The benefit of the Salafis is that they came at a time where the internet was like blowing up. So a lot of some of the things that spread with the Wahhabi, they actually use the internet to their advantage in certain cases. So I think a way for us to counter that is to make sure that people know the proper books, the proper publishing companies where they can get ilm that are free from those deviations. Allah knows best.
One of the things that I like what y'all was talking about the coming from the side of understanding and compassion and concern and love and mercy and being, as my wife say, a new word I learned, being gingerly, whatever that means. You mean spicy? But and that has a lot, that is important. Because when I look at myself, speak of myself as an imam, I know to this day, when somebody says something bad about the Ansar Allah community, I feel something inside. To this day. And I mean, you're talking about, that's a long, long time ago, right? Decades. To this day, exclude them in the discussion of Islam, I get angry. I'm just making a point, right? When you say, oh, the nation, more science, the Dar, and like they didn't exist, I feel something, right? And I'm way away from that, right? But so it's the nature of human beings, wherever you got your start, wherever you got your support, wherever whatever you got that brought you to, you have a connection. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be considered that when you're talking to people, right? So now, especially when we had the airwaves, for all the time, y'all younger than me, right? I listen to rap music today. I don't know how they listen to that stuff. What's rap music or hip hop today? I don't know how the youth listen to that, right? I came up with, my earlier days, Kumo D, Treacherous 3, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, Curtis Blow, Run DMC, like LL Cool J. That was my.
You were still doing the Humpty Hump though, you man. Come on, be real. You were doing
Humpty Hump later. That's later. That was getting. I've been stopped listening to rap when he came around, right? Right? No, I mean I might have caught the beginning of the Public Enemy phase and a little bit of the NWA, right? Right. But after that, everything else is just a blank. But listen to my point. For the young kids today who would listen to that music, man, that wasn't real hip hop. This is real hip hop, right? But them old heads, they're not letting that go, right? They had a run. And then if you look at, say, like Tupac and Biggie, they had a run. So these new guys, they may be more talented, more whatever, right? That's not easy to let that go. So I'm giving you just an analogy. So you're looking at these movements like the Dar had all the 70s. They had that in their pocket. You come to them and tell y'all ain't know nothing about the deen. That ain't a good feeling, even if some aspects of it is true, right? Because that's what happened to them. When that split came, what was basically said to them, y'all Wahhabis, right? Y'all Wahhabis. And that was one of the main things that caused that split. And it was true. They were Wahhabi. They didn't know it, but they were Wahhabi. So when they started moving towards Sufism, to the Hanafi school, you see, Maturidi Aqidah, which was different from people reading, even though they had some Ghazali books, they had some Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, they was all what we would call today a mess, right? Knowledge base, a mess. And I know that firsthand. Like, if we have, like, let's take the emotion out. Like, you want me to stop being emotional about the Ansars. I want you to stop being emotional about the Dar. Let's just talk about the issue of knowledge. It was a mess. Knowledge base as to where we at today. That doesn't mean all the other stuff wasn't good. I'm talking about knowledge. And I have original Dar Islam papers, insight. It was a mess. You read the stuff, you look at the knowledge, it was all over the place. But that's what we was given at that time. So you got to be sensitive to that. You follow my point? And what I say, so I agree with that. And now when we move from a stage to stage, that's a constant in the Black community. We get a stage, now those Salafi guys, they had this long run. And now you come tell me, man, this stuff's a mess, right? That's a hurting feeling. Even if it's true, it's a hurting feeling that we have, but as we got to apply the same scale. When it was for the Ansars, you ain't have a problem saying it. When it was for the nation, you ain't have a problem saying it. When you want to talk about Imam Muhammad's community, you ain't have a problem saying it. Now, when it applied to you, have that same, you follow my point? Until ultimately we get to a point where we understand what is a standardized understanding of the deen historically and globally, and we adopt that, right? And then we work out the kinks. But to do that, you got to be able to take some lumps. You have to be able to say, we were wrong, right? And you can't get angry with that. We were mistaken because it's not your fault. Just like a lot of us have been given false concepts of the deen, we didn't ask for that. That was given to us. And as you grow, you learn. And that's going to be a constant process until we get it right. Until we learn historical and global, well-known, accepted Islamic methodology, which is knowledge, we're going to always face this, right? We're going to go through groups because everybody comes to America and they end up playing us. That's the standard, no matter where they come from and no matter what ideology they got. Because you got people who are Ahl Sunnah, they follow it correct, but they want to subjugate Black people. So what the Black man's going to get is a mess, right? He's Sunni, but he's being used. You got people who come, they're tasawwuf, but they're using people, not teaching them correctly. So I got a sheikh, but I don't know nothing about the deen. I don't even know my fard ayn. What kind of sheikh is that, right? But you got that going on. So I think these are things that we just got to work out. And I think we got to put on our big boy pants to work that out. Like, it is possible that I can be mistaken, and we're going to travel together to work out those mistakes. And it ain't a big deal. Like, we're going to be mistaken sometimes. The fix is in, as they say, and we're trying to work our way out the fix. I think that's something. What is your thoughts about that? That's something I think that I see.
Bismillah, Imam Mujahid.
Bismillah. Yeah, definitely, man. You're right. You know, people do get sensitive about, you know, their heritage. I mean, I get it. It's their heritage. You know, you speak to some people like who have been in the Dar, like, especially if that, or the Dar, Nation of Islam, Ansarullah, Islamic Party North America, Moorish Science Temple. I mean, look, even the 5%ers, like, you know, I have a loose history with the 5%ers. You know, that, you know, people do get sensitive about it, especially if that was the beginning of them awakening into a new person. If particularly like if they lived a life that was totally oblivious to a law in any capacity, or oblivious to just any higher grade of living and understanding of self and applying, you know, in any way. You know, people will get offended if you come for that. I get it. And even if they themselves know if they themselves know that there were some problems with that particular movement, you know, they still gonna have some issues. Like the only time that they might not have issues is if it's somebody else with it from the same movement saying, "Yo, like we had this problem, we had we had this problem." So maybe for Imam Amin, if somebody else from the Ansar community came and said, "Well, these were our issues," Imam Amin might be a little more receptive to that because they both shared that same heritage. But if I come in and start talking about the Ansar law and Dr. York and the pyramid, if I came and talk about that, and, man, he might want to jump through the screen. He might want to jump.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. Go ahead, move on. Now,
you know what I'm saying? But for real. So, and yeah, I mean, but ultimately we have to be honest with ourselves, especially now with us being Muslims. Or we acknowledge the Shahadatain, we acknowledge that, and know that, hey, like just like there were some things we made a mistake in prior to the Shahadatain, maybe there were mistakes we made during the Shahadatain, and things were still working out as we as we are living the Shahadatain. Like it's natural growth and progression. This is what the Deen called us to, is natural growth and progression. So I've definitely noticed that. I definitely noticed that. But just being honest and being willing to learn, and be willing to contemplate, like the Quran, calls us a lot to do tafakkur, contemplation, pondering, pondering about this thinking, reflecting. And then, through that, we could reach the truth. But if we're afraid to do that, we want to ponder and reflect on everything outside of us. But when it's something that's attached to us directly, then it's like, I don't want to go there. I ain't trying to go there. I go everywhere else, but I won't go there. Nah, you want to grow, you got to go there. You got to go there.
That's real. That's real, Imam Mujahid. I'm glad you said that. That's real, man.
Let me take this question.
Hold on. Imam Naeem, yo.
I know Imam Naeem wanted, we gonna, hey, this black folk, we gotta take it.
Naeem, he been walling out all night. I mean, like all night. I'm missing the green room.
Hey, we gotta take it. So he gotta go green room. He gonna talk about music. It's only a dream. I know where it's going, but hey, we gotta take it. It's part of the growing pains.
Go ahead, Imam.
Right. So I want to share something to you, right? I want to show you something. Now, I want to take you down real quick, Tanweer. I want to share something to you. I wish I had the books here. It's not at this house, right? When I grew up in the Ansars, I told you that, right? Since I was a young boy, right? And we used to do a weird. So there was Sufi. We had a thing called Abna'u Nur al-Akhdar, the Sons of the Green Light. That was a Sufi order, right? And we used to read a book, a weird, called a Rawtib. So it was the Rawtib of Imam Muhammad Ahmad al-Mahdi from the Sudan. So you Sudan, you know about, from the Mahdiya family, right? Hadiya, you too young to get these things. This is grown folks talk. Go to your room. She's like, wait a minute, I don't understand.
We'll talk. You don't want to know.
That's what I'm saying. You don't even want to know. Look, it's not even. Look, it's not even working. Ask your mother. She know.
Ignorance is bliss. Bless.
Oh my goodness. Right. But so we used to read this book, right? But in those days, we read Arabic, but we were young, so we really didn't understand Arabic, right? So we used to read the translation. Those who could read Arabic we would read the Arabic. We really didn't know the meanings, but we could read Arabic, right? So it was always the translation. So, you know, I still have all that stuff, right? Because this was like a part of my life, right? So now, years later, I'm an adult. I know Arabic. I can understand Arabic, right? I understand what I'm reading. I've read the Roundtable of them, and then I read the translation. I'm like, what the heck is this? This ain't even what it says. We would have, no one knew that. I'm talking about hundreds of African Americans read that stuff every day, right? And I'm like, it doesn't even say this. Actually, this is a Sunni Roundtable with Sunni Ahl Sunnah stuff.
A very well-known Sunni Roundtable.
Right? And I'm like, this translation, it don't even say the same thing. That's how far we were, right? Like, what the heck is this? It's not even the same thing. But the Arabic was there. But we were so uninformed, uneducated. Dude's making up his own words. It's not even Arabic. I mean, it's not even what the Arabic says. The Arabic is actually nice, right? Has a tawassul, a tabarruk, nice stuff, right? But the translation, I don't know what the heck that is, right? So, now the same thing applies to others. We're passing all these books. I have the whole library of the original writer for the Darul Islam's newspaper. I have his whole library. I have it. He's one of the elders. He died. His name was Sharif Abdul-Karim, right? He was one of the elders. He was educated, and he was one of the first among them. He was preceded all of them guys overseas. He was like Bilal Phillips days, right? They was in Egypt. They end up in Saudi because they was giving out the money. Azhar, I mean, this dude was an intellectual, like straight intellectual. His library, amazing. And it go from the Dar all the way up to Wahhabism, to Sunniism, like his journey is in his books, in the library. I read this library, and when I say a mess, I have evidence. I'm not saying a mess, like, but he was like the educated of the educated, right? But he was all over the place, right? Why? Because in those times, you're talking about in the 70, 60, late 60s, early 70s. Those days, I'm talking about, he was the one writing the papers. The original paper for the Dar, he was the one who was one of the main writers, organizing. He was like the Malcolm for the Dar. I have his entire library. And
you got to come to New Jersey to sit with you and read some of your books.
I mean, and I got another part of it just like a couple weeks ago. And it's like, man, make a library out of this stuff. And I'm going to do it, inshallah. Allah give me tawfiq. It's a lot of stuff. It's from the 70s. Some of that stuff from the 60s. You turn the pages, and this is all in Arabic and English. You can't turn the pages, right? But I have it. Alhamdulillah, it's preserved. And I wish I was a little bit smarter. Some of the stuff I didn't keep because I was really concerned about the Arabic stuff. So I was like, but anyway, alhamdulillah, we got a lot.
History, that's important, yeah.
Right?
You need to know.
But here's the thing. So when I'm saying that, and he was like the top level, because he was one of the first of the African Americans overseas that really, really studied, right? Before all these modern Salafi guys, he was there in Saudi Arabia. To the point, you remember, I was telling y'all when the Shia took over, said he's the Mahdi, and took over the Kaaba, they was inside there when that happened. They was there. There's black African Americans, right? So when I look and I go through those books, because he has a lot of stuff. But you see that he was trying to figure it all out. And it was going through stages because in those days, them guys didn't know Arabic. They was like the first guys who knew Arabic, right? So they were, you know, they was exposed to a lot of things. All that is a discussion, right? And here's what I mean by that. So when we talk about these movements, we got to understand a lot of that is to show us what we got to do in the future, right? When we like have real discussions, here's what they went through, here's what the books they were using, here was their references, here's the knowledge, here's what this connects to, this connects, here's the actual text. That's a level of learning that we have to do, right? But a lot of us, we can't be fanatic to do that, right? You can't have ta'assub, right? So, you know, if you came to that library, you would say, Imam Amin, why you got all these Wahhabi books? And that's what they were studying. Like,
no,
right?
But we need to preserve that history though, so that as you said, so that it doesn't repeat itself. People don't fall into those things again. So I really feel like you have a gem with you, Imam. I feel like that needs to be all those books, even the books that you have problems with. Some maybe some of the translations. I think that still needs to be preserved. Like people
I have it.
Know,
I have it, and that's something that I'm working on.
That's a project. Right? Okay.
If you ever come to the Masjid has become a library. Masjid Muhammad, like that's all them areas, that's stuff's filled up with boxes and boxes and boxes and crates of books.
MashaAllah.
Because my own library, and now I got 2 libraries from those guys who were teenagers, like 16 years old in the dark.
So see, and I feel like the something that our community could benefit from is people like helping you and like a team of people sifting through those books, because I really feel like those a well mapped out curriculum in our community would save us from being all over the place. Like how you said, like, if you could see the journey through his books, which is a blessing. But, if the goal is for us to reach a level where we're not, repeating the same, issues of our, believing, elders and our believing ancestors before us, then I think that history needs to be preserved. And we need to be serious about mapping out a curriculum for people in our community so that they have a straight curriculum, that they don't have to be all over the place and, have to unlearn so much of the things that they've learned on their journey. Inshallah.
One of the brothers, he's still alive. He's in his 70s. And he's a sheikh for me. He's old though. I'm trying to bring him on because he was one of the original first guys to study overseas. Like this was like the early Azhari, Saudi. Before that was famous, them guys was overseas. And he's a sheikh for me, right? And he said to me when he just gave me the last, he was like, I thought I was going to give you this stuff when I die, but now I'm getting so old, you get it now. Right? But he has a wealth of information. And that one day I'm working on him. I got to get his computer, get him up. He's old. He doesn't do all this stuff, right? They were real studious people. Like they wasn't all this fancy stuff. They old. He's still alive. So inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to have him come and, and join, but he's a big old Sufi. So it's hard to get him to do,
Those are the elders where we need to preserve their stories. We need to get their stories. We need to get, as our teachers say, every time an elder dies, an entire library dies with them. Because knowledge is from the chest of men. We need to get all of what we can from our elders. Wallahi.
Okay. Well, we got any more questions? Let me see. All right, I want to ask a question. I want y'all both to answer this. Now y'all in charge. the Imam title is real, but you're in charge nationally over our community. We do our work. We get these Imams together. We get with all the different organizations. We build. We only got a good 10 years, if that. I mean, most the elders are too old, and we get in here too. So let's give us 10, maybe 20 years, right? We don't got more than that. Y'all in charge. What do y'all do? What would y'all want to see us do while passing the baton? And what do y'all see for the future in the next 20 years when y'all are responsible?
Go ahead, Imam Mujahid. That's you.
Man, dang, I was gonna pass it to you. Okay. Inshallah. Bismillah. So try to keep this concise. First, what I would like to see from those who precede us, of course, teach us the deen. Of course, teach us the deen, but like actually have us in the rooms. Have us in the rooms when these major decisions are being made. Have us in, bring us along during these real world, real life situations, so that we can actually get the experience. You know what I mean? Like going in. But bring us in.
It's on our class. We were talking about the Dar and your history, and I want to bring you in just for a second. Say salam. We're live online so that the people can hear, at least hear. And one day I know, but inshallah, it would be great.
Oh my God, me. Okay. Inshallah, okay.
Go ahead. Give some advice. These are all people all over the country, all over the world. They're listening in, and we were talking about.
Oh, no, they're not.
Yeah, they are, Sheikhi. So we was talking about Sharif and yourself and overseas and the Dar when you were a teenager. We were talking. So if you can give us just a little idea of your journey. I know it's not ideal circumstances, but just so we can get an idea of the conversation from your own voice.
Okay, I'll do the best I can.
Go ahead, Sayyidi. Go ahead, Imam.
Oh, they're listening now?
Yeah, they can hear you. I got my phone on speaker.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm your humble brother, Fakir Ibrahim Abdulaziz, and I've been doing our Quran and Sunnah and basic tasawwuf for my whole life since I was 13 years old. And it's been a long journey. I'm thinking about writing about it. I think I'm writing something like living out our qadr that Allah put us in for our life. And so, how we came to Islam and then how we found our way to what hopefully is correct path of Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat, and how we've been struggling to hold on to that. Mistakes here and there along the way, but inshallah, in the end, hopefully, we will be holding on firmly to that at the end. Well, I mean, you're going to ask questions or something, or just keep talking?
Yeah, go ahead. We're just trying to get an idea. I'll ask some for them. We'll take a couple minutes, Sheikh. I don't want to take up much of your time. I told you I got to get you on, but this is the one way to get you out there.
Beautiful stories. I mentioned a beautiful story today to somebody.
Go ahead.
I think it was 1970, perhaps. Might be wrong about the dates and time. But Sharif Abdul-Aleem, who, as Amin knows, he probably had the most extensive hadith collection in the United States. I don't know. And he had collected it everywhere: Mecca, Medina, Cairo. But when we first met, we were both young people then, and he was studying at NYU Arabic. And he came out and he was like a baby. And he said, "Oh my God, I just saw something in a tafsir. I think it's Ibn Kathir." And it was Sayyidina Ibn Abbas had said there was no verse of the Holy Quran that he didn't know how to recite it, what it meant, and where it was sent down in. And Sharif was like the baby, and he just kept saying, "Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that?" And that, I guess, was kind of what we did for the rest of our life, trying to do that to the best of our ability. Yeah. So, alhamdulillah, I think, and I still think great task for any of us to try to spend your life studying Holy Quran, books of hadith the best you can, a little bit of tasawwuf to keep yourself on the spiritual path, and be the best Muslim brothers and family that we can. Anything else, I mean?
Sheikh, if you could talk about, because y'all were young, you're talking about in the early 70s. What made y'all go over, huh?
Yeah, early 70s. Oh, it's a story we got to sit down and detail and write in detail. And I mean, inshallah. I think I went the first time when I was about 17. I just finished high school. But then Sharif and I went back again. I was about 24. I guess he was maybe 28, 29. And what happened, we were in Jersey City, and it was with Sheikh Suleiman Dunya, the Azhari, and a person had come. His name was Ibrahim Abu Shaisha from Al-Azhar, and he was kind of like recruiting people, and he said, why don't y'all come? And that's how we went back there again. And then, it's just been up and down, round and round. There's so much. I went to Masjid, we do Quran Qur'an with the Arab brothers in Bergen. But even tonight, I was thinking just tonight, as a young guy was in there accepting Islam, how much more y'all have now at your fingertips than what we had then. Although, alhamdulillah, it was great then that y'all have a world at your fingertips now. And, great mercy from Allah.
All right, so that's when y'all was overseas.
Mm-hmm.
How many Americans, African Americans, what?
Almost zero. It was a handful, and it was sporadic, and people would come and go, and again, I mean, no, I don't recall there are many serious students of ilm like yourself and others, and I don't recall that.
So it was like so y'all would be considered like
it was very haphazard. It was very haphazard. Very most people didn't do that well or didn't stay that long. But alhamdulillah, it was something. People tried.
Would you consider to say that y'all were like the pioneers for African Americans in doing that type of study?
I don't know. There had been other people that had gone. There had been people who had gone like Tawfiq, Imam Tawfiq, and these other. I don't know what the story was, the real story of it, but people had gone, but it was an initial period, yes. And then like someone like Sharif was not your average brother. Sharif was a very gifted person. He was a very, very intellectual and scholarly person, a different kind of person.
Mm.
And so he had all the skills that he could take advantage of studying them. And he had been very studious from very early on.
All right, Sheikh, so we're going to bring you on. We were talking about this whole thing, so I wanted to, and they've encouraged what you said about the library and making a library so that people would be stirring history. So
do that, and I thought when you settle down, like we said, we should have Afro-American Sunni Sufi conference once a year, perhaps in Atlantic City. Bring all the different Turuk and Burhaniya, Chishtiya, yourself, Qadriya, Baalams, everybody together, just let them meet together. That would be, I think Zay Shaka thought it would be such a great idea if we could do that. And we can invite all the non-Sufi, anti-Sufis and try to explain why we think we're right and they're wrong, inshallah. Do you agree?
Naam, Sheikh. All right.
Why we try to convince people that our tasawwuf is a part of Quran and Hadith. It's a part of it. Well, thank you for talking to everybody, and you have y'all continue to do the best you can. Hold on to the rope of Allah, inshallah.
Inshallah, and we're going to set that computer up so you can come live one day and spend a time with us.
We got to meet again soon. Okay, we'll meet soon. And did you get to look through many of those books you took down?
Not yet, Sheikh. It's too many. I told you. but we gonna get to it. And I gotta arrange to come see you, inshallah. Barakallahu bikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Love you so much. Think so well of all of you. And Amin is just such a helping person. Allah help him, bless him in his mission, inshallah. Okay.
All right, assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah, I wanted to get him just to give you some, we still got those older elders that are alive, and right now we got it, he's way over 70. So it's like we got to grab it now while we got it, Alhamdulillah. But you see that transition, you know? Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah.
Mujahid was in the middle of saying something.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No problem. Alhamdulillah.
But Naeem said you don't belong in the room. You got to stay and watch the door. You just want to jump in the room and have your opinion.
What?
Naeem learned that. You can't do that. Right? You got to wait your turn.
Imam Naeem trying to start stuff. You see this?
I'm like, yeah, he over here. He's trying to go to war on this John. I mean, for real. I mean, what else can I say after that? After the Sheikh spoke, what else is there to say? You know, alhamdulillah. But essentially, you know, like I said, just makes this. I would hope that the previous generation would see the need and significance of preparing subsequent generations, right? Just like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we see that he started young. You know, that's why if you look at you know the main fuqaha amongst the Sahaba, right? You know most of them were young. They were young when they started. You know they were younger. You know, you talk about Aisha, Ibn Omar, Saud, Ali, you know, Zayd bin Thabit, you know, these are some of the younger ones, right? And you know, that's very significant and very important. You got to start them young. You got to start young, and give responsibility. You know, and trust responsibility in the youth. You know, give them, you know, prepare for them to be the imam and leaders. You know, make sure that even our sisters, you know, that they are competent in the deen to teach other sisters, right? That's necessary as well. And as far as, inshallah, you know, where will the community be after we take over? You know, inshallah, 20 years down the road, which is really not a long time. It's not really a long time at all when you really contextualize it. Inshallah, our people will be more, you know, will not only have the basics of the deen down packed and it'll become the norm for them, but they'll also be sure themselves that they can also look at themselves and see themselves within the fabric of Islamic history. You know, not just like an asterisk, you know, that are, you know, thinking that our history is just, you know, the Nation of Islam and all these other groups, which definitely had a significant role to play in getting the ball rolling. But inshallah, by that time, we can now create, you know, a new standard. We can create a new foundation, right? The old foundation were these groups, you know, who might not have been 100% correct in things, but they tried. They did what they knew. They applied what they knew. And hopefully, 20 years from now, we will have, you know, the correct foundation that's been passed down, you know, through strong chain transmissions, through strong chains, leading all the way back to the beloved Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right?
No, go ahead.
Okay, and that we will have institutions that will address that will address the issues in our community, and I also want to put out there that these institutions will be fully funded by us, right? That we don't have to rely on communities outside of ourselves to maintain and fund our initiatives, right? So, you know, we're not on the ball and chain. You know, we're not on their ball and chain. You know, if you know, we don't have to worry about if we say something that they don't like, then the money go away. The money's right up. No, that we have full autonomy in, you know, in regulating and preserving our communities. You know, inshallah, that's where we will be within 20 years. Within 20 years.
Unfortunately, today this is as a statement, but I guess I want to get y'all perspective. So, unfortunately, today's youths don't record the same way because many of us don't get serious about community till we're older. we need to get back to recording history from our perspective, the Black Sunni youth in America. What's your thoughts on that?
Bismillah, I just wanted to just first, acknowledge and reiterate what Imam Mujahid was saying. MashaAllah, we definitely need to get, back on, certain, that community feeling and that seriousness of us, even in how we approach the deen, from how we preserve the deen, and all those facets. Even in line with what Sister Sayyidah Maryam is saying. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that we need to take community a little bit more seriously. And as you said, Imam, I mean, one of the issues, the reality is that a lot of people are in survival mode, and when you're in survival mode, there's certain things that you're not going to prioritize. There's certain things that you're not going to look at. There's certain things that you might not even, consider important because you worried about, the next check, where these bills is coming, etc. So I really feel like, the importance of the community goes hand in hand with the importance of the youth, because if you cultivate, the youth should be in khalwa, in service. That's really what the youth should be in, especially in our communities. Like Imam Mujahid was saying, naming the Sahaba that were young. Osama, him leading the army in his teenage years. These young Sahaba, they were, fearless. They didn't really have. They weren't. I feel like, once you become an elder and you're established to a certain extent, there's a little bit more for you to lose, so to speak. So I feel like, we need to empower the youth. I feel like, the issue with our, with our society is, this teenage year is usually a year of, people finding themselves. It just leads to confusion. And we know the way of our believing ancestors. There was no teenager. You were either a child or an adult. After you went to your rites of passage or, whatever ceremonial, transitional phase, you were an adult and everyone respected you as an adult. So I don't think, for our community, we don't even have the luxury. We don't have the luxury to baby young adults, as quickly and functionally. I want to add functionally, because there are, we don't want, there's some people have to grow up too fast because of the trauma of, growing up in single parent households or what have you. So the quicker we can functionally transition our youth into adulthood, the better it would be for our community. And that includes, learning, what they need to learn as Muslims, Fard Ain, Fard Kifaya, the usul, the ulum, the foundations of the deen, but also them picking up a purpose, a trade, an initiative, something that is also benefiting the community. And I want to emphasize that, what Sister Maryam is saying, that, one of what I was speaking of earlier can even account for that. If the youth, because I know, the elders, many of them had to go overseas because there weren't much option for them to learn the deen here in those decades. In the 70s, there weren't many options in the 70s and the 80s, even in the 90s, unfortunately, for people to just have a full, complete curriculum here. So overseas was more of a necessity during that time. But alhamdulillah, that's not as much as a necessity in the time we're in now. So I really feel like what would even take care of what Sister Maryam is saying is what I'm proposing. And many others have mentioned an idea like this as well, of seekers of knowledge in our community starting here in America. Imagine if you finish that project and people and the youth, seekers of knowledge are coming to sit with you and they have access to that library. They're coming to sit with, Imam Mendes. They're coming to sit with, anyone who they can learn from their own cultural context here. You know, even say the Aisha Prime, even the scholars, you know, even the women who are qualified. You know, we need to sit with all of them. So and I really feel like if that happens, a natural progression of us preserving certain things and us, you know, even the youth, because if the youth have access to those things, it's going to be preserved through their knowledge, through their own experience. So that's my take, and I'm definitely fully behind, you know, initiatives like that. You know. Alhamdulillah, Allah knows best. This
one. Mujahid, you have anything with that or no?
Bismillah. Yeah, I think what Sister Maryam mentioned is very pertinent. It's very important about how how recording history and acknowledging community is it's not something that we think about until we get older, or something that we don't think about until we start making our own families, and then it becomes this big issue, right? But I think one of the issues that we have is that whenever we're talking about whenever we're talking about community or communities in our heritage, in our lineage, it always sees something. It's always viewed as something that's like yesteryear, right? It's always something that doesn't seem like it's in the present, or it doesn't seem like it has much relevancy for me today in 2021 or whatever year it will be, right? So the question is, how do we make how do we make our how do we present our heritage in a way that it is current, that things that happened in the past, that it has relevancy, that the history, the knowledge, the roots, all these things that they have connectivity to today. That the community isn't something that just happened, back in the 70s or in the 80s. Like, what, how is that happening now? How's it happening now for us? What is the vision of it now? So I think the way to do it, along those best, is that when we mention our rich history, we have to connect it to now. We have to connect it to how it will or could shape our future. And through that's what that could possibly influence the youth to to take things maybe a little more seriously, or or just to have a greater interest, in understanding our past, because it affects them today, and it will affect their future. You take much more interest, and you take a more serious approach when you realize that things can affect you in a very real and tangible way. So we have to continue to drive this point home, that this is what happens when you don't have community, right? Because it's how it affects you today, and it's how it will affect you in the future. It's what happens when you do have community, because the effects of that are what's happening right now, and this is how it's going to affect you and your children in the future.
So you had Malik, Imam Malik, because his internet wasn't operating, he had to come on and shoot his questions. So he said, Imam Amin, what are your thoughts on a national Sunni organization model in the sense of what the Dar tried to do? Do you feel it's possible and necessary with so much division among the Black Muslim community, especially theologically? Let me say one thing before I answer that question, and I'm gonna make it brief because we're over time. I do realize when I speak about Al-Wahhabiyya or Salafiyya, sometimes I'm very, very stern and have a slight harshness with myself. But everything has context, right? And I just want to share some context because all of what we're talking about, I've seen it firsthand, right? And experience will teach you, right? When I went over Egypt, I immediately saw that two sides. I saw Azhar and I saw the harsh part of Al-Wahhabiyya, Salafiyya, Jihadi type movement. I used to go to the Masjid where the blind Sheikh Omar Abdul-Rahman was leading, and they was doing terrorist stuff. And I was a teenager, but I thought that was Islam because they had long beards and, you know, it was radical. And I remember that. And in those days, it wasn't terrorism here. It was overseas. It was in the Muslim lands, right? But I think back, I could have been G.I. Amin. You know, they got G.I. Joe, the guy who was with the terrorists and didn't know, right? No, that could have been me for real. And a weird thing, I was hanging out with them. I didn't know what they was doing. I just thought that was the real Quran and Sunnah. I was a kid. I didn't know no better, right? And as I learned, I started to see the danger of that stuff. And I was in the real Arabic sources in it, in it. You know what I mean? So for me, I see the danger. And I know as a people, how much we got to learn. I see the lying. I see the false quoting of books. I see the changing books. I see all that stuff. The breaking of our whole Islamic tradition. So I see it from a different eye set. You know what I mean? My sight sees something totally different. And I remember someone said to me, it was like, Imam, most of us ain't seen that stuff you talking about. They don't know. So you're talking from your eyes, not from what they see, right? And one day that library gets up and we can sit down and people know Arabic and we can share and we got translators so it's not like one-sided. We got others so that you can see all this stuff. And then on top of that, we be honest. A lot of us still haven't reached honest mode. A lot of our leaders, they won't be honest with you. They won't say, I was mistaken. Yeah, I was a part of that. I was misguided. They won't do it, right? They'll justify it, right? You was confused and you won't just say it. Oh, Imam, why don't you stop being so hard? No, we need to help our people so they don't get confused. You're giving a pass to confusion and you know better, right? And this is a problem. So I think when we get to that point of honesty among ourselves, I said that, so consider when I talk, there is this aspect of harshness that I need to find on our young brothers, and I need to remove that, right? I need to get a little soft, but understand where I come from, the context I'm speaking. I see them change Arabic books. I see it. I read them. I watch. Like, this guy just altered the book and then pass it off to us. We're the bottom of it, right? They're changing the books. They're redoing the whole Islamic library and giving us a whole new religion, right? And you think about it, a student, and I'm going too long, I'm sorry, but you got a guy who graduates from the University of Medina, and he got a whole new religion. And he's a graduate. He's and he still don't know the deen. He still just has a Wahhabi propaganda, and he don't even know it. He has a master's degree, and he just got a bunch of Wahhabi propaganda and no access to real Sunni scholars. They told him, don't listen to nobody else, and put a stamp on his back and send him to our community. And that person who got a master's degree in Islamic study, a graduate, he struggled, learned Arabic, he got to start from scratch in his mind, because all that you got is nonsense. That's a hurting feeling. You think he's going to turn that, like, I got a master's degree, I got a PhD, and you telling me it's all nonsense? Yeah, basically. It's fabrications, lies. And guess what? They have the books in their libraries that will tell them it's a lie, and they'll just say all the scholars were mistaken. That's deep. They give them the books, but they tell them, they program them so they won't even read the books they have. Ain't that deep? Think about that. That's our people. You have the books in your library. And I never forget it. I'm out of respect. I'm going to just share this last story and I'll answer the question. One of those big Wahhabi guys, he's one of the head of the Wahhabi guys, African Americans. We was in his house having a discussion, debate discussion. He studied overseas. He's Medina, all that, right? He quotes something to me. He didn't meet me. We had mutual friends and we met. And he quoted something. I said, where'd you get that from? This is Quran Hadith. I said, you got the library. He had a huge library. Fathul Bari, Sharh Sahih, Muslim, huge, because they give him books. I said, did you read your library, Aki? This stuff's right in your library, right downstairs. And it was witnesses. I'm not making this up. There was witnesses. I said, if you just read your books, you wouldn't have made that mistake. If you read the books right in your library, you wouldn't have made that mistake. And that's how I know they don't read. Like, you would have never made that mistake if you'd have just opened up the books you're quoting. Never opened them. Never studied them. And I was like shocked. Like, you make this mistake in Aqidah and the book is right in your library. Everything that contradicts what you're saying is right in your house. And they taught you don't read. It's just decorations. You don't even read this stuff. Like, it's deep. So when I see that, I realize how dangerous it is. Like, this is going to be the highest. These guys are graduates with high levels of learning in that stuff, and that's where they at. Where the rest of the guys stand a chance? That's something deep to think about, right? These are the best minds we have among our people. They went over, they studied, they were sincere. They got hoodwinked and bamboozled. What can we do? That's scary. You know, you think about it. These are smart people. And they got programmed like that with a whole new religion. And for us, they've made that whole new religion standard Islam among us. Think about that. Like, standard now. So my question is, yes, we do need it. I believe it's possible. But what we have to do is we have to have honest dialogue. And that, if we can get past that, for someone not afraid to say, I'm mistaken. I say this. The guy was there, we want to talk. I would talk to any of them. I don't need to talk anything. All I would do, I don't need to say anything. Bring your library. Bring your library. And we're just going to question you about what's in your library. I don't need to say a word. I don't need to bring no proofs. I don't need to do any of that. Bring your own library, and I'm going to show you in your own library what you are missing. That's deep. I don't need anything. Don't talk about my sheikhs. Don't talk about my teachers. I just want to go in your library. The library you got from them. I want to go in that library, and I just want to open up the books and let you read them and you translate them because you are good. Maybe I'm stupid, right? You're not. You're a graduate. You got the stamp. You got everything. I'm going to open up your library, and you read and you translate and then you explain. And you know what it comes down to? At the end of the day, they taught our people that all the Muslims were kuffar, were idol worshippers, grave worshippers, and they didn't know Islam. And then our kingdom came and saved the whole Muslim world. And our people brought that just like we brought that Christopher Columbus discovered America. That's the end reality. And you tell me that's not sad? Think about that. They told our people who went over there honestly to learn that the whole Muslim world from the time of the Prophet, after the Salaf, down to us, all of them were idol worshippers, grave worshippers, confused about belief. And then this great Islamic rescuer named Muhammad ibn Abdul-Wahhab with the Saudi family came and rescued the Muslim world from idolatry, and grave worship and saint worship. SubhanAllah. And they believe it. And they came back to America and taught our people that. Ain't that deep? Think about that. And at the end of the day, it ain't an argument. That's going to be the final conclusion. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajj Asqalani, he didn't know Aqidah. An-Nawawi didn't know Aqidah. Qadi Iyad didn't know Aqidah. Al-Qurtubi didn't know Aqidah. Tabari didn't know Aqidah. All of the scholars, none of them knew Aqidah. All of them were confused. But we can't do nothing without their works. And we brought that hook, line, and sink. So that's just honesty. Like, really? Are you serious? But that's what they told us. Christopher Columbus discovered America, and boom. And it was a bunch of savages running around here, and Africa was savages, and they had to take them out the jungles. They was all running around naked with bones in their nose. That's what they told us. They did the same thing to us with our Muslim people. Same stuff. What do you want? That's what we're facing. And guess what? It's been in our country for around 30, almost 40 years, and it's become part and parcel of our Islam. To where real Sunni Islam is strange. That's deep. Think about that. Think about the damage that's been done to us as a people by that movement. Here we are still trying to figure it out. I didn't mean to go too long. I'm sorry. So yes, we can do it, but we have to man up. We have to sit down and say, even if you said, yes, all of them were misguided and we right. Now we got to make a decision if we believe that or not. But first we got to get them to honestly say that. But they do say it. Imam Tahawi was wrong. He's from the Salaf. He has a height, but he don't know he was confused in Aqidah. We only take from the Prophet. But we're going to interpret the Prophet. He was a master of hadith, Hafiz, but he don't know what the Prophet said. You do. He knew over 100,000 hadith. He studied with the greatest scholars of the Ummah, but he didn't know what to believe. But you do. And I'm supposed to accept that. He was confused. He was from the Salaf, directly studied with the highest chain on the face of the earth, but he was confused and you got it right. Really? And you're telling our people that. What do you do with that? I mean, and it ain't personal. This is deep. This is mass mental slavery through religion. It's serious. It's not light where you guys don't talk about Aqidah because we don't want to tell the truth. So don't talk about Aqidah. You said all the Muslims were crazy. Then what religion we got after that? If everyone in our religion was confused, why are we reading their books anyway? They conveyed the Quran and everything. You just said they were all idol worshippers. They didn't know how to believe. So I guess you get my point. It's a serious issue. So it's doable, but we gotta have a serious, well, they say a backroom talk, but we gotta have a serious backroom talk or whatever. But it gotta be a serious talk. We can't play these games. And it's doable and it's needed. And Allah knows best. Y'all get final thoughts and we gotta close out. We way over time.
They still going, man. They still going.
But I can't go, man. Boy, I'm gonna be in divorce court. We keep this up, right?
Man, tell us for the Ummah, Imam. Tell us for the Ummah.
Okay. All right, for the Ummah.
Like the house of the Ummah.
You married the Ummah, not me, right?
MashaAllah.
Allah.
Alhamdulillah, I don't have anything more to add. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. We just gotta use our logic and our common sense. We gotta be well established in our own tradition, to understand what we're up against. We have to work towards changing that and be for real about what the situation is. So alhamdulillah.
And you know what's sad? We don't even realize how much the wool been pulled over our eyes. We have no clue. And those who know among us still won't tell us. There are some who know what I'm talking about well, but they won't say nothing.
Yeah.
It's not politically correct to say this. It's going to hurt and that's why I said support, because if I go on the line saying what he's saying, my support going to drop drastically. I can't say that. I know he's right. I know exactly what he's saying, but I can't do that. No, this is a serious problem, and we'll dance all around it, right? But I can't say that. I know it. It's true, exactly as he's saying it. I can show you, but I can't do that, bro. I'm sorry, Imam. You got to do that by yourself. And can say it better than me in a nice way or whatever, but I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. That doesn't work for my politics. I can't do it. You got to eat that, homie. You got to eat that, homie. I ain't doing that. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, but you're right, man. You're right, though. You're right. A lot of us shook out here, It's shook.
Can I give you an example? Anyone who studied in Azhar, so listen, just think about it, and I don't got to say anything. Anyone who studied in Al-Azhar and studied, especially if they graduated, anyone who studied in Azhar know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in Yemen know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in Syria know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in Morocco know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in Africa, Senegal, Nigeria, know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in Mauritania know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in Pakistan know exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who studied in India know exactly. Do I need to go on? So
Jordan.
Go around and think of how many people from our people studied in all those places, so they know exactly what I'm saying. Think about it. Now that's called dry snitching, right? I didn't say anybody's name, but all you got to do is think about it, right?
Oh yeah.
Hey, Imam Lane, can I get a dry snitching pass?
Man, right. Yeah, I was thinking like, dang, man, you done said about 7-11 names right now. I ain't gonna say them, but
I'm just being honest. They know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Look, man, it's
So now just imagine I named all those places. What if all of them spoke up in one voice? We could change this stuff probably overnight.
Yeah. But it's
overnight.
It's very political. We know that the British were funders of much of the Wahhabi movement. We know that even the French. We look at the history of Egypt when they changed the curriculum at Azhar, when the French took over Egypt, and they started to change the curriculum and secularize some of the curriculum of Azhar. So this is not like a new phenomenon, unfortunately. They've been since the Muslim world fell from our golden era, if you will, in history, they've been attacking Islam because Islam is a way of life that doesn't acknowledge secular. Everything is sacred. The natural world around us is sacred. And this project, this European project of the secularization of the world, removes the sacred from the natural world around us. That's the bigger picture, And anyone who knows the history of when Napoleon came through Egypt, and they took over, and they got some of the people at Ashar to change their curriculum and start looking at different things. That was a part of the beginning. They infiltrated our universities, so
But here's the thing: all of those places, the scholars of those lands, those same scholars who they study, they speak of this stuff clearly. They write books about it, and you can't tell me because I have all the books, right? So for all of those places, I have the books of the major scholars of those places is in the books. So if you studied there, and some of them I studied there, I know what's in the books. I know what the scholar said. I know I can show you. So I know you heard it. I know you know because they're struggling with it on the ground.
Yes.
So it's not something you can hide. It's not like some top secret Imam Amin found out something new. No, this is well known, right? But we've become politicians, and politics, and it's become more important than our survival as a people and our deen. We're afraid to do enjoying what is right and forbid what is wrong. We're afraid to do that. And this is our problem. And we're the only ones suffering from it to this level, us as a people. So, we need to stop celebrating Malcolm X, and we need to start becoming Malcolm X. We need to stop celebrating Malcolm X, and we need to become Malcolm X.
Wow. That's heavy. That's for real.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, close us out with dua.
Before we go, I just want to acknowledge our sisters Naima and sister Mariam. Yeah, they've been going in all night, So yeah, sister Naima, yeah, you're right. The African American community will be the community that brings out the truth. We will be the ones to bring the truth out. It has to be us, man. Like it has to be us because we see other people ain't gonna do it. So it only leaves us. We have to be the ones, right? And Sister Mariam said, "Oh, I see they're talking about Hemford Jamaat." Yeah, that's crazy. Like for anybody who's read that book, who's read the book Confessions of a British Spy, talking about Mr. Hemford, then you understand.
It's real. It's real.
It's real. Yeah. She's right. Yeah. Yes, it's right. It's right. They like the Wahhabis. They belong to the the British Jamaat. That's right.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, Sidi Nail, put out a dua.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mawlana wa Habibina Muhammad. ربنا زدنا علما ربنا زدنا علما ربنا زدنا علما اللهم ثبتنا على نهج الاستسلام وعلى نهج الاستقامة وإثنا في الدنيا من وجوبات الندامة وخففنا ثقل الأوزار وزدنا عيشة الأبرار اللهم اجعلنا هدة مهتدين غير ضالين ولا مبدل سلما لأوليائك حربا لأعدائك نحب بحبك من أحبك ونوالي بعداوتك من خالفك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين الفاتحة بسم الله
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.